So one of the things that comes up often is, I want to do this work, but I don't have the capacity. I don't have the capacity because they have so many things going on, so many different directions that they're going. And so I wanted to take a moment today to address this concept of capacity and having the capacity to do what you need to do in your business. And maybe perhaps realign some of your expectations around doing leadership and personal development work from the perspective of how much capacity do I need to have to do this work? Hey, you leader, entrepreneur, business owner, solopreneur, whatever you call yourself, we know you're a visionary business builder, wealth seeker looking to combine a passion for doing good with leading consciously. It's time to shift from a traditional focus of pure wealth accumulation to one that integrates well-being and fulfillment. This is the Conscious Edge podcast, and I'm Alecia St. Germain, entrepreneur and coach. Along with my friend and wellness advocate, Jonathan Duggar, we're diving into what it means to embody radical self-acceptance while still evolving to lead with compassion and kindness. We're sharing our own experiences and expertise as we unpack imposter syndrome, perfectionism, procrastination, and all the other things that lead to burnout and keep you from experiencing pure joy, business growth, and maximum impact. This is a safe and supportive space to explore what it means to be a human creating wealth and building a business. You're here for a purpose, and it's time to shine your light. So here we go. Welcome back to the Conscious Edge podcast. I'm your host, Alecia St. Germain, and founder of the Conscious Edge, where I help women business owners be able to build their business and create wealth with a lot more fulfillment and joy and a lot less of the grind that happens. And so we unpack all the things that are triggering about building a business, all the blocks that hold them back and get them stuck from being able to move forward and achieve their goals. And we hash through all of that and give them a lot of strategy and leadership skills that will make the whole journey a lot more enjoyable for them. If you are just joining us, I want to say welcome to you. If you enjoy this podcast, I want to encourage you to hit the follow button so that you know every week when we come out with a new episode, you'll be notified. And make sure that you take a moment and leave a review. It will really help us to be able to reach more people with this message that we're sharing. My co-host, my usual co-host, Jonathan Duggar, will be back very soon. I promise you. I know I've been saying this week after week, and I miss him just as much as you do. You have no idea how much more difficult it was to record a podcast by yourself. I'm on probably take number 4 of starting this because I just don't have him to play off of, but I still really enjoy doing this. We're on episode number 26. I'm so glad we started this podcast, and that means 6 full months we've been doing this. Part of me wishes that I had started it sooner. If you've ever felt like that in your business, like, oh, if I'd have known, I'd have started this sooner. But I also believe in divine timing, and I think that this was probably the perfect time to do this. Jonathan definitely would have not agreed to do it any sooner. So it just gets to be what it is. So today I wanted to talk to you about something that comes up very frequently with the high-performing, high-achieving, very ambitious women that work with me. And I know this is true for so many business owners. You know, you don't go into business because it's not for the faint of heart. I think people go into it with the intention of creating more autonomy, freedom, flexibility, feeling more secure and more in control of their finances. And oftentimes in the process, you end up working harder, longer hours, putting more into it. It's more personal. It's not something that's easy to part ways with. It's emotional. It's very much a whole human experience. That's why we say what we say in this podcast. And so when people start their business or do their business, they end up oftentimes taking on a lot of different things they weren't expecting. And so when someone comes to work with me, they've usually already got a lot of strategy. They've got multiple streams of income, multiple ways that they're making money. They might all not be operating or functioning at their optimum place or level, but there's definitely a piece where they're starting to get a little bit impatient with how long it's taking to get the results. It may not have been the most enjoyable experience at times. They love what they do, absolutely love what they do, but they know that they need something. And oftentimes they're like, I know it's coaching. I know that it's a coach, a mentor, a something that I need, but I don't need more strategy. I've already done that kind of work. They oftentimes already have a community that's around them. So they're just looking for that next level, but they don't know what it is. And then they meet me and they're like, I think it might be you. So one of the things that comes up often is, I want to do this work, but I don't have the capacity. I don't have the capacity because they have so many things going on, so many different directions that they're going. And so I wanted to take a moment today to address this concept of capacity and having the capacity to do what you need to do in your business. And maybe perhaps realign some of your expectations around doing leadership and personal development work from the perspective of how much capacity do I need to have to do this work? So as you're growing your business and scaling your business, it really is, we're always as entrepreneurs looking and assessing, like, what's our capacity? What can we do? And there's times where when I'm coaching someone, I will notice that they are trying to do too many new things at one time. And so I'll go through and we'll actually talk about what their immediate need is versus what their long-term needs are. And we'll look at the ways that they generate income and whatever their long-term goals are. And we'll start to look at strategically what is the most important thing that they focus on, because they're focusing on too many things at the same time. If you've been listening for the last several weeks, you know that I keep talking about like how we get really focused and manage time and really be mindful and intentional with our time. But one of the things that I often will see is they're like doing 3 or 4 new things. It's almost like starting out on January 1, you have all these New Year's resolutions and you're like, I'm going to completely overhaul my life. And that's actually not a very effective way of developing new habits and changing your life, to try to overhaul and do everything all at once. Small, focused, intentional changes over time actually lead to bigger results than trying to do everything at once. So one of the things that I learned a long time ago from another mentor of mine was that when you look at your quarter and you have a whole list of things that you want to accomplish, maybe you do a brain dump and you list out all the things that you want to accomplish, and then you really ought to not focus on more than 3 things. And 2 of those things need to be something that is like old hat for you. And only 1 of those things can be something that's new, that you don't have previous knowledge of, or something that you're trialing or experimenting with. Maybe it's a new income stream. Maybe it's a new strategy. Maybe it's something that hasn't been operating really well in your business and you want to spend some time trying to figure out what is it that needs to be fixed in that particular area of your business. But really 1 thing that is not your strength that you've got to develop some skill around in order to get better at it. And so when someone says to me, I just don't have the capacity to work with you right now, I can't put in the work to do it right now, it's disheartening in a lot of ways because what I know is that it is slowing their process down. Now, if they're saying it to me to be nice, because they're like, I don't want to hurt her feelings, I don't really want to do this work, that's fine. One thing, like, I'll be okay. It still hurts my heart for you, but I'm okay. But I think a lot of people truly do want to do this work, and they are trying to wait for the right time. And that never comes. So it's putting that mindset of needing to get to the right timing before you start working on yourself, before you do that self-reflection, is treating what we do, this leadership work and personal development work, like it's a strategy. And it's not. It's a foundational piece that is a way of life, and it will touch your business at whatever level you're at. So if you listen to last week's episode about how much this work affects the experience that you have on your journey, you'll hear me talk about it really doesn't matter where in the process you start to do this work, but also you never stop doing it. You never stop practicing mindfulness. You never stop addressing or noticing or being aware of your triggers and then asking yourself, what does that mean? What am I making that mean? You never stop refining who you are so that you can be the best version of you, because it's really, that is what life for people like me and people like I work with is like for them, is that it's not about not being enough. It's about being ever evolving and being able to change with the times. I mean, when I think about how life has changed drastically in my lifetime, when I started life, there were no cell phones. Computers in the home were not a thing. And then I've gone through in my life, just in 44 years, going to computers and cell phones and now AI. And if there's anything that's really apparent is how fast our world has started to change. And it's at like lightning speed when you think about the thousands and thousands of years that we very slowly evolved as humans. And now all of a sudden, things are changing so rapidly. And so how could you not carry old beliefs that aren't supporting you, or old ways of life, or old thought processes? How could you not carry that? So to me, it's like, well, how could you not always be attending to yourself? Because I know all of your results, everything that you create in this world really starts from the inside out. So this idea that, well, first I will create the capacity, then I will do the work, it's backwards, because all the things that we do to increase our capacity. So these are things like hiring someone to do certain tasks in your business that maybe you're proficient at, maybe you're good at. And those are probably some of the hardest tasks to hire out, is the ones that you're proficient and good at. And yet it's like not the best use of your time. It's not really where your genius is. And so you end up being this employee of your company as opposed to the mastermind that's there growing it and creating the impact and making a difference with the unique perspective that you have on the world. So hiring those things out, hiring things that you're not good at out. Those are usually easier to hire out, but still require a certain level of trust. The other thing that we sometimes do to increase capacity is borrow or leverage. Use leverage to be able to invest in that next thing, that next income stream. Invest in hiring someone who will help you increase your sales or increase your revenue. But basically taking on debt, good debt, really, in order to grow your business. There's people out there who they don't want to take on debt. Like debt feels very dangerous to them. And so they will grow slower because they don't have the risk tolerance for debt. And again, that's not wrong that it's slower, But there is other things available to you when you start to think about things differently, or when you start to look at things from a different perspective, and it doesn't make you feel unsafe. I think anybody who's like really stresses about borrowing money and it causes them anxiety, like there's some stuff there. There's some baggage there that has you moving slower than you could be moving if you thought about it differently, if it didn't feel unsafe for you. Or even just doing things that don't need to be done anymore, like letting go of income streams. I think about one of my friends went through a process where she evaluated everything that brought money into her business, and she looked at her streams of revenue that gave her the best ROI, and then really doubled down and let go of things that were costly to maintain and did not necessarily have the highest ROI compared to other things that she did in her business. And I hear that a lot. And that's one of the things that happens oftentimes with real estate investors, who I work a lot with women in real estate, is they've got a lot of different types of deals that they're doing. And so because they're doing so many different types of deals, everything requires so much brain power because it's a new deal, a new way of doing it. It's not following a formula. It's like doing so many different strategies instead of looking at what is currently going to work best in the market conditions. Where's the need? Where's the customer? What am I good at? What can I systemize? And how can I make this like a business as opposed to all of these one-off deals? So what can I let go of? And so for some people, like the opportunity to make any kind of money, whether it's actually a good return on your investment or not, it's really hard to let that go. Even when we think about the type of clients and different businesses, when they niche into a certain type of client that they're really good at helping. And it's really hard sometimes to go all in and really get good at helping a particular type of individual in your business, even if your business could help lots of people. But the problem is nobody knows, from a marketing perspective, nobody knows who you're talking to when you're really general. So all of these ways where getting specific and really focusing in a certain area that you're good at feels, again, dangerous, like I might be leaving something on the table. And then the other thing that happens with people who are in service-based businesses is you're trading time for money. And so if you are someone who does a lot of consulting work, the type of work that you do with your clients is based on your brain or you, that's actually not a very secure type of business for you to run because it's dependent on you showing up for work, on you showing up to run the business. And so the next level, the way that we increase capacity is starting to bring on other people and teaching them how we think. And there's a whole fear that comes up there where if I train someone else how I think and I bring them into my company and they start serving my clients, what's to keep them from taking all of my genius and then going and starting their own business? And so there's a whole mindset that has to be worked through there if you're going to build more of a model where you have an agency where other people have been trained by you to provide the services that you provide so that you can scale and help more people to be able to do that. Or figuring out, how do I serve more clients as a single person? Like, how do I create a group environment where I can help them understand something in a little different way, where they can either hire someone to do what I do and they conduct it, or I teach them how to do it themselves, or I teach other people how to do what I do and I become like a business mentor and I teach people how to build this type of business that I've built. And so that's about creating these new streams of income that really take what you know on a one-on-one basis where you're trading time for money and you're increasing your reach by amplifying yourself, by leaving that mark in the world. And I think that you have to get yourself to a truly abundant place where that doesn't feel scary to let what you know go out into the world and actually ripple into so many more people. And so all of these strategies essentially for increasing capacity so that you can do the work, so you can work on yourself, so you can develop your leadership skills, so that you can give yourself the space in a week to do the material and do the reflection work and come to the coaching calls. All of those things that happen as part of the process require the work. So in order to increase your capacity, in order to be able to do the things that are done to increase your capacity so that you can do the work, you need the work to increase the capacity. So it's this very vicious cycle that people get into of trying to create the capacity without the skills, without the mindset, without the guidance to create the capacity. And so I really wanted to talk through this with you in this thinking or this thought process that when I talk to people before they choose to work with me, I will tell them, like, listen, in order to get the most out of this, in order to get something out of this, you've got to be willing to do the exercises, take the time to do the reflection work. It is also, though, done alongside of your business. So some of the reflection time and some of the things that you're reflecting on actually are about planning out the business the way that you dream it to be. So it's spending that planning time and that intention time. It's actually doing tasks inside of your business, but attending to what you're thinking, how you're feeling, and giving you framework and a process for unpacking different kinds of situations that come up in the day-to-day as you are going about and doing your business. So it's worked into and alongside of what you do in your day-to-day. Now, it takes a minute to learn how to do that, which is why I make the program a year long, because I know life will happen. I know things will come up and you will get off course. And if I only give you a short amount of time and I'm like, we're just going to crash through this, it doesn't give you a full opportunity to have life happen. And so this takes the pressure off of, I have to do everything perfectly and I have to be at every single call and nothing can ever happen and I can never miss doing an assignment for a week. And this is designed to not be pressure. You don't need more pressure. It is designed to actually work alongside of your life and have you taking action on behavior changes and things in your life that will help you get to your goals faster, will help you move through things, and give you a different awareness, more learning, more information that's going to actually help you run through things better to increase your capacity, essentially. So it's that whole concept that I have to create the capacity to do the work. The one thing that I think people have the biggest challenge with is that we have a coaching call that happens twice a month. Right now, currently, it's Wednesdays at 1. As I keep the group very intimate and small, I've made a decision that everyone really loves the small groups and loves being able to intimately get to know people. And so I was reflecting on, like, how big do I want to grow this group? What would it look like? And the decision that I made was that we're going to cap the group at 20. And then as there's more, I'm just going to open different times. So it's the same work, same thing, but you'll commit to a certain time slot as I grow it to additional people so that every group only has 20. That seems to be like a really good intimate size. It's good for people to get to know each other and support each other and celebrate together. And so that was just a decision that I made and how I could amplify my time, but still keep that private feeling, that one-on-one touch that happens. So in the hybrid model that I use, where it's like a hybrid of one-to-one and one-to-many. So the biggest challenge right now is currently the offering is Wednesdays at 1. And sometimes people are like, well, I can't make it to Wednesdays at 1. If you do the work in silo, I have modules, I have things you can go through on your own. But when you do it in a silo by yourself, I see things when you talk to me and you tell me how things are going with your different exercises and different experiences. I see things that you don't see. When you're listening to someone else's challenge, you're very likely also having a challenge like that you weren't even aware that it was showing up in your life until you heard that other person talk. So not coming to the coaching calls, I think that's where the magic happens. And so that's where people have the most resistance is like, well, how do I show up every other Wednesday at 1, the first and third Wednesdays at 1, and then the second week we have a co-working session because people have a hard time committing to do the work. So once a month for an hour, you come together and whatever part of the program you're on, you work on that in tandem with us. And if you need support, we hop into a private part of the Zoom room and I will coach you. And usually I can solve wherever you're stuck in it. I can usually solve it in 15 minutes or less. And then that gets you back on track. So people will say, like, I can't come to the Wednesday calls. And I would say, and what's fascinating is this is where it's challenging because you so need to do the work to understand you can be there Wednesdays at 1. Because sometimes that looks like going to someone else that you work for and setting that, like telling them that's what you need. Very often I see people make a decision for where they are versus where they want to be. And so they're like, I can't go Wednesdays at 1. I still have a part-time job or I still have a job that I go to. And I have this business that I do. And so I can't be there because I have to go to my job at Wednesdays at 1. And it's like, it's this delicate balance of, yes, you're doing it for the income, but also, do you want to work at that job for the rest of your life? And ultimately, you wouldn't be engaging in my coaching. You wouldn't be starting your business if your intent typically was to stay at your job for the rest of your life. So you're making a decision for your today circumstance, and it is costing you getting to tomorrow's goal. And so that's a really hard thing because you have, like, people in our process that we use, I would coach you to go through an experiment and, like, let's figure out how can you be there Wednesdays at 1. And that might mean being really brave and going to someone else in your life and saying, I need to make this commitment to this thing Wednesdays at 1, the first 3 Wednesdays of the month. And this is what I need in order to keep being here and keep serving you in this capacity. And so if that looks like some people will choose to use vacation time to have that hour that they need. It's interesting, like some people won't even take off and go get their healthcare taken care of because, like, you don't want to miss work. And so you just put off having your healthcare. I think this is like any work that you're doing, any personal development work you're doing with any coach or any life coaching, anything like that, that is your well-being. I'm not saying it is the same as healthcare, but that is all taking care of your body, your brain, your soul, anything that is investing in your well-being like that should be such a priority. And so often I see people choosing working for someone else, even if it's part-time and it's meant to be temporary, but you're choosing that part of your life over your future. And so you've got to work up that courage to say, like, I'm going to be okay. Like, there's something in you that says, I'm not safe. I'm not going to be okay. I can't do this if I ask for this from someone else, that I need this Wednesdays at 1. Here's the thing. I'm speaking from experience. I had a situation where I wanted to engage with a coach who I felt was going to teach me or help me get my business launched for the coaching business. And she invited me to attend like a conference that she ran. And I was like, oh, I have a newborn. He's still nursing. I'm in Ohio. This is in California. Like, that's not possible. She goes, well, bring your family. Like, my son will be there. Bring your family. You'll work it out. And the moment I started to think like, oh, wait, how can I do this? Everything started to fall in place. If you've been following this podcast from the beginning, I think at some point I've mentioned that to you. And so the moment I decided I wanted to do this thing, then I started to solve for how to make it happen. And that's how you increase capacity, is you decide what you want in your life, what your vision is, and then you start solving for the roadblocks. You don't take the roadblocks away and say, well, if I get the roadblocks to move out of the way, then I'll do the thing. You will be so slow. Your mindset will continue to throw up roadblocks for you. And I don't want to discourage you, but it will be a very long road because you're going to keep having those roadblocks. So what it really takes, I hope that you hear me, what it really takes to increase your capacity is to decide what you want in your life and start solving for the roadblocks, start solving for the problems. It is no different. Like, choosing to do this work to me is like no different than the choice that I made to have a child, because it's something that you want in your life. And like, I know when I started my own personal development journey, I was somewhere around 30. Like, when I really started, like, I did the mindset stuff, like listened to mentors and read the books, and like I had a good mindset and like all the things that my family was instilling in me around positive attitude and growth mindset. But like, when I really dug in and started doing leadership work, I was probably around 30 that I started to do that kind of thing. Maybe even younger than that, I'm not sure. And it was literally the best thing I ever did for myself in my entire life. Better than marrying my husband, better than having my babies. It was actually the thing that made my relationships better, my parenting better, my business better. Like, it touched every single part of my life. And so when I think about it, I was like, it's just you decide to do it. And then everything else fits in, because if I'm not okay, if I'm not functioning well, if I'm not taking myself to the next level, I will never grow beyond whatever my capacity to lead is. So I will, what was it? I heard someone used to say, your business will never outgrow your capacity to lead it. That's what I would say. So this is so crucial. And so when I made that decision, okay, I'm going to have a baby, was I ready? No. Like, I don't think anything can prepare you for that. When you start your business, are you ready? I think you are, but no, nothing can prepare you for what is the human experience of building a business. You decide. And so this work, you decide, and then you solve for whatever is in the way of you doing that work. And the work will help you solve that too. That's the other thing in the process. So this whole concept of not having the capacity, it's really figuring out how you're going to put the time in. How are you going to make it a priority? It's not a capacity problem. It's a priority problem. It's not really getting that this is going to touch so many parts of your life. I understand not taking on a strategy. Like, I made the conscious choice that I was not going to start learning this Instagram strategy stuff until my kids went back to school. Like, that's a capacity problem. I didn't want to take on something new that I couldn't put the time and energy into and the thought process into in order to learn the strategy, in order to execute the strategy. But never would I put doing personal development and leadership work in the same category as learning a new revenue stream or a new strategy in my business, because it just touches so many parts of it. So I hope that helps make sense of this capacity problem that I oftentimes hear, and helps you understand that trying to create capacity for personal development and leadership work without personal development and leadership work is a recipe to go round and round in circles. So what I would recommend is, if you have been looking for that something, looking for like that next level, trying to hook into something, like you're ambitious, you're driven, you're like unstoppable, you're resilient, you have all these like incredible qualities about you, you know you're powerful, and also at the same time, you know there's something blocking you, then it's probably time for us to talk. So you can go to consciousedge.com/training. You will either get access to a live training that's coming up, or if it's after that point, you'll get access to an on-demand version of that will be immediately available for you. And it will walk you through what is involved in the places where you might be holding yourself back, and where you might be creating this kind of experience, this very grindy experience that you may be having. And you may be like, you're going to get there, but how beat up are you going to be in the process? And you don't want to experience that. You want to really start living out that incredible life now and keep creating more of that. If you want to increase your capacity so that you can have more, do more, be more, make the most impact, then you're going to want to check out that training. So with all that said, I'm sending you so much love. And if Jonathan were here, which I hope he is back soon. No, he will be, I promise. He would say, be well. Thanks for listening to the Conscious Edge podcast. Make sure you subscribe and take a moment to be kind and share this episode with someone you care about. Leave a review to help us bring more compassionate leaders building businesses and creating wealth to the table. And for show notes, head over to consciousedge.com/podcast. This podcast and the linked materials are presented solely for general information, educational, and entertainment purposes, and should not be taken as personal or medical advice or any kind of mental health treatment. Please consult a medical or mental health professional if you feel you need such services. Please be advised that all investing and entrepreneurial endeavors involve risk, and the use of the education and information on this podcast and linked materials is at the user's own risk.
This podcast is part of the Sound Advice FM network. Sound Advice FM, women's voices amplified.